And I'll call on Cammie to present the Monday market report. Cammie, take it away.
So our income in February averaged about $1,100 a week, which was an improvement over January. So we're happy about that. And in the first 3 weeks of March, it's gone even higher. We had some fabulous donations in March, so we're happy about that. Most of the work of the Monday market happens behind the scenes. And I want to just take a minute to recognize two of our most dedicated volunteers who've been doing that work for 4 or 5 years, who are both retiring this month. First is Barbara Laughlin.
Oh,
and at this point, Peter will give you a photo.
I will share.
Barbara Laughlin, the card lady. Okay, next slide. There she is. She's been coming in every Wednesday, every Friday, and every Sunday to sort the donated cards into categories. And you can put up slide 2. It sorts them into a special closet. Birthday cards, Christmas cards, sympathy cards, get well cards, postcards, box sets. Everything stays in there during the week, and that's where the work is done. And on Mondays, it comes in 3 or 4 times during the day to bring cards out from the storage area and replenish the display table. That's the part that looks pretty. The greeting card table is one of our most popular areas, and we want to thank Barbara for her many years of work. And you have her slide one more time. Thank you, Barbara. Then if you can return to me, let's see if I can do this. So the other person we would like to thank is Liam Blaze. Liam, I'm going to put him on behind there. As you probably heard, he's moving to California. He started in the Monday market about 5 years ago, working on the checkout desk. Then he did all the ironing. For the past 3 years, Liam has been one of the absolutely key people processing donations at least 4 days a week. He does the glamour work. He inspects the crystal and the china. He creates the gorgeous displays. He stages the furniture. He also does the grubby work. He scrubs pots and pans. He prices the toothpaste. He never says no to anything. Liam has been such a friend and supporter of the Monday market. He is generous with his knowledge and his expertise, but he's always playful and fun. He is an absolute delight. We will miss him enormously. Thank you, Liam. That's my report.
Great. Thank you, Cammie. Thank you very much. We will move on to community news. I'm sorry. Yes, community news. Let me share that slide. That'll consist of 2 reports that deal with different aspects of the same subject. George Counts will be presenting the Health Advisory Group report, and Lauri Warfield-Larson will be presenting what we have titled COVID Protocol Changes and Assisted Living Name. So I'll turn the show over right now to George Counts. Oh, I'm sorry, let me show the rest of the agenda here. That'll be followed by 2 members of the Philanthropy Committee, Doris Ray and Herb Reinell, talking about the Partners in Caring campaign. And then batting cleanup will be Mike Ostrem, our CEO, with a management report. Okay, thank you all for being here for that. And I'll turn it over to George.
Thank you very much. I would like to make some brief comments about issues which have been raised here among the residents. Several residents have asked basically the same theme question. That is, now that everyone's been vaccinated, why can't we simply go back to the way we were pre-COVID? And anyone who is unvaccinated could simply wear a mask. I need to have you clear on why that is not so easily accomplished. And the issue is because we have a supported living wing. That wing puts us under the mandate of the Department of Social and Health Services, which has certain rules governing residents and staff in that wing. Now, if that wing were completely separate from the independent living space, then we perhaps could make whatever changes we wanted to in the independent living space. But it is not. The independent living, there's a supportive living residents go through our independent living space in order to participate in certain activities, the gym, the pool, and salon. So because they are intermixing with the independent living space, the same rules apply to the independent livings. So that's why we are required to be in mask and isolation in certain areas of independent living. The Department of Social and Health Services will do inspections as they do as a part of their regular activities. If they find that we are not in compliance, they can issue us a citation. This is not just an insignificant piece of paper. That citation has the capacity, if they influenced it as such, to close our supported living to further admissions. So it is a really big deal. So those points are just to help residents appreciate why certain things that seem obvious really cannot be pursued so easily. The second thing to mention is that there is so much news about variants these days, but the important thing to keep in mind about the variants is that they are spread the same way as the virus before it was a variant. You understand what I mean? The same infection prevention measures that apply. The variants may indeed cause more serious illness, but infection prevention measures against it are still the same. The variants are being actively studied, making certain that the vaccines we have available are still effective against the variants. If they are not, the scientists are prepared to alter the vaccine to cover them. So that's the news about variants. The only point I wish to make in addition is some good news that I heard within the past couple of days. One of the vaccines, I believe Pfizer, was found to be 94% effective against asymptomatic infection. This is important because, as you recall, what we've been wondering about the vaccines is, do they prevent someone from picking up the virus and spreading it? So it looks like there's some good news that the vaccines may well do that. Now, to return to infection prevention measures here at Horizon House, we have been able to make certain substantial changes, and Lauri will be going into some of these. But if you have any questions, feel free to get in touch with members of the Health Advisory Group, Abe Bergman, Finley Wallace, Jeffrey Graham, or myself. Thank you, and I'll now turn it over to Lauri.
Thanks so much, George.
Thank you, George. Go ahead, Lauri.
Thanks so much, Peter. So as George mentioned, we are governed under Department of Social and Health Services, DSHS. And you maybe have heard that the governor is expected to sign some more proclamations, which would allow indoor visitation to resume. That was announced last week at the federal level. However, we cannot make any movement on what the federal changes are until those changes become effective at the state level. So that's what makes this a little challenging, is when there are announcements made before the state or the county make the changes that allow us to move forward. The governor is anticipated to sign a proclamation possibly this Thursday, may not be till later, that would then allow and position communities like Horizon House to begin to resume indoor visitation in some capacity. Now, to George's earlier point, we are under more stringent guidelines with respect to supported living. We will be required, as we consider indoor visitation parameters, to have some limitations in place down to number of visitors at any given time, length of time. Now, the state has been very clear that outdoor visits is still preferred. However, there is recognition that some provisions for indoor visitation need to be made. We anticipate having a structure, we're already planning for a structure in order to schedule reservations for visiting family members of those residents in supported living. We will start there. And our plan is, if the governor moves forward with signing the proclamation later this week, we will have communication available for family members and residents of supported living starting on Monday to make reservations. And then we will resume indoor visitation to supported living next Wednesday, March 24th. So again, this is all contingent upon timing of the governor. At this juncture, we are looking to have several different blocks of time available for residents and families to visit in the supported living apartments of the resident, up to 2-hour visits, 2 visitors at a time. And we'll have some morning, afternoon, and evenings, and we will have some limitations on number of visitors in totality into supported living based on some of the mandates we must follow. In short order, then we will look to begin indoor visitation for independent living residents and family members, possibly as soon as the following Monday, March 29. So we will certainly be forwarding more information to everyone next week as we learn more from the governor's office and clarify if there were any additional changes from what's been announced preliminarily with regards to indoor visitation. So again, once the governor signs that, then we'll have final information. I do want to share also that the governor's plan is very clear that we are not to exclude visitors who have not been vaccinated. I know that's been a question that has come up by residents in terms of will we only allow visitors who have been vaccinated into the community? The state is very clear that we cannot exclude those who have not been vaccinated, so that will not be a condition of indoor visitation. That may be a personal decision by residents and or family members to not do indoor visitation until vaccinations take place, or certainly the outdoor spaces will continue to be available by appointment for visitation if that is a more comfortable arrangement for both residents and visitors. The other final comment I want to make on visitation, I'm very thrilled to share that we are going to be soon introducing, we're hopeful for next week, a visitor management system, and won't go into the details now. We'll share more in the coming days, but we're going to be launching a kiosk station, if you will, at all of the screening points of entry. And they will be kiosk devices where visitors, employees, vendors, construction workers will be entering information into the kiosk, answering questions about COVID symptoms, exposure, and then temperatures will still be taken initially by a staff member until such time that the device is set up to do automatic temperature taking as well. So that we hope will help to streamline the process as we welcome back more individuals into the community and captures more data for moving forward. So stay tuned for that, and we will certainly be putting out more information later this week and into next week as we learn more from the state and Governor Inslee. So we're very, very excited to be arriving to this milestone of a year later to be able to welcome back visitors, especially for our supported living residents, some of whom have not seen families in quite some time outside of virtual visits. So excited for those reunions to begin. I'm going to switch gears and move to a name change we're going to be bringing forward. So supported living is a name that we adopted back in 2005 following the closure of our skilled nursing facility. At that time, we continued with the assisted living program we had, and of course, we retained the assisted living licensure. And at that time, most other assisted living communities, virtually all other assisted living programs and communities were not providing the higher level of care that we began to provide in our assisted living program once we closed the skilled nursing facility. And that was allowed because of regulatory changes for assisted living services. And so we felt to distinguish ourselves in the marketplace and from prospective residents, we needed to have a name that says we were doing something different than what everyone else was doing. So supported living is the name that came to be in play. And fast forward, as you well know, there have been more and more nursing homes that have closed over the last, especially 2 years. And we anticipate that trend will continue nationwide. A variety of reasons for that, including The increase in home and community-based services, home health services are much, much more equipped to provide services in the homes that otherwise were provided in skilled nursing facilities. Consumers are not as interested in skilled nursing facilities anymore, and financially they are very, very difficult to operate. So we no longer are a distinguishing product, if you will, or service in the marketplace and for our own residents. And so more and more assisted living programs are providing the higher levels of care that we do. And it becomes more complicated to explain to prospective residents and to family members, our own residents, supported living, which really is assisted living. And so we felt it was time to return to nomenclature that is better understood. The Board of Trustees agreed at its February board meeting. And so effective as of today, we are going to change the name supported living to assisted living. Our program is not changing. I want to emphasize our services is not changing. Strictly the name is changing. So you will receive a communication later today. There's outlines what I've shared with a little more detail of what happened back in 2005 when we closed our skilled nursing facility. We have alerted staff earlier today. And of course, in the following days, we'll be changing our name to assisted living and our collateral material, social media, the website, and so on and so forth. So it will take all of us some time to get used to saying assisted living instead of supported living, but we'll eventually arrive to that place where we rattle off our tongues assisted living and not supported living. So that's all I have on the name change. I do want to make one last comment because I know many of you on this meeting today are friendly visitors to supported living or now assisted living. Thank you for those volunteer services. While we are getting ready to resume indoor visitation, possibly as early as next week for assisted living, again, based on the governor's signing, we are going to ask that no friendly visitors come to assisted living yet because we do want to reserve the spaces that are available for family members. So stay tuned. Eventually, we certainly want to welcome back friendly visitors to come into assisted living and help support your former neighbors and friends there. But if you could please hold on those visits until a little bit later date. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Well, Lauri, that's a great overview. Thank goodness you said there'll be announcements in writing because I didn't remember it all. I imagine a few other people will welcome those written announcements. And thank you, George, for the part you played in this presentation today. Thanks very, very much, both.
Thank you.
Okay. So now, next on the agenda, we'll hear from residents Doris Ray and Herb Reinhold, who are members of the Philanthropy Committee of Horizon House, and talk about the Partners in Caring campaign. Go ahead, Doris and Herb, as you will.
Thank you, Peter. I'm very pleased to co-chair the Partners in Caring again this year with my co-chair, Herb Reinhold. I hope you enjoyed the cookies that we had that you found in your cubby when we initiated our Partners in Caring campaign. As you can see, I still have my cookie. However, I plan to have it for dessert tonight. We recently had a very successful 2020 in terms of contributions. And I hope that in 2021, we will be even more generous. And to get us started in the right direction, we have a challenge grant from a very supportive resident. Any contributions made by residents by the end of March, up to $10,000, will be matched up to that amount by this resident. So please make a contribution. Whatever you feel comfortable in contributing, knowing that it will provide assistance to residents and to staff members. We all want to be a part of Partners in Caring. Thanks so much for your help. And now to Herb.
Thanks, Doris. I'm grateful to have a chance once again to speak to the Residents' Council and through the Residents' Council to the membership of Horizon House at large. Partners in Caring is well named. It is about caring. It is caring for the people who surround us every day, the people who make our life what it is, who provide us with what we need: conversation, friendship, sympathy, support when we need it. We don't always find these things when we first come here, but after a time, if we're patient, we do. Partners in Caring is also about being partners. We do these things not just as individuals, but together. Together, we bring about the spirit that is Horizon House. Through our giving to each other, we recreate the quality of life that we all felt when we considered coming here. That quality of life has to be recreated each day by the way we respond to each other, by how outgoing we are, or how outgiving we are. Generally, we do this in less formal ways, through our interactions in the hallways or over a cup of coffee in the lounge, or through our participation in one or more of the many programs that are offered. The Partners in Caring campaign is a time when we formally recognize needs of the community and respond to the less daily, less visible needs, the needs of those friends who deserve our help to remain at Horizon House, the needs of staff for personal development, special projects that might otherwise not be met. So Partners in Caring is about coming together to care for special needs, the less visible needs. I encourage every one of you to think about what you can do to catch the Horizon House spirit and give as generously as you can to continue making Horizon House what we all want it to be for all of us. Thank you for giving as generously as you can to Horizon House, to Partners in Caring. Thanks.
Oh, Herb, thanks to you. Thanks to Doris. You do so much good work in running this campaign and getting the word out. We really appreciate that. And I just want to say how fortunate we are at the Residents' Council because of the great work at Bundy Market to support our programs. It also supports Partners in Caring, the Residents Assistance Fund in particular. On an annual basis, we make a substantial contribution to that. So we're happy to be Partners in Caring with our Partners in Caring fund drive. Thanks very, very much. And now you've all been waiting for our cleanup batter, the most popular CEO of Horizon House at present, Mike Ostrem.
Oh, thanks, Peter. Well, I don't know that everyone's been waiting, but hopefully you're still awake and for this last little piece. And I want to play a little pile on with adding some bright spots to both the Partners in Caring and that Doris and Herb talked about, and also on the loosening of restrictions that Lauri talked about. With respect to Partners in Caring, Horizon House contributes more to the well-being of residents than any other community in the Northwest. And I bet you that if I went through all the 990s, the tax forms of our communities, other nonprofit communities, I bet that I would find that it was true that we contribute more to the health and welfare of our residents than any other community in Washington, and maybe even beyond that. And that just speaks to the profound generosity of our residents, and to Herb's point, that it really is about caring for our neighbors and wanting to make sure that people can continue to experience the quality of life that Horizon House offers and not have anything related to finances that could any way interrupt that. So I thank you for your generosity, and as they say, keep those cards and letters and gifts coming. Also wanted to chime in a little bit on loosening of the restrictions. We meet George and Lauri and the rest of our task force every single morning, workday morning, 5 days a week at 9:30 to talk through the complexities of the changes that we are going to make. And it's a lot more fun to talk about changes that are going to enable everybody in the community to enjoy each other's company and move around that much more and have visitors. So what Lauri was describing that is coming over the next week and a half, 2 weeks, is a major step forward in getting back to some normalcy in our community and get our visitation going with supported living residents, assisted living residents, I correct myself, and also with your friends and family that want to come and visit. So we're moving in the right direction. And we also want everyone to be mindful of, we're never really out of the woods until someone tells us we're really out of the woods. So yes, we have vaccines. Yes, things are improving. And yes, we should just maintain our distance when possible, wear our masks when possible, and just generally be mindful that that while things are improving, pandemic isn't over, and we just want to continue to be safe. Some other things to mention, we had our small group sessions last month, and we had about 40 participants on Zoom. Normally in an in-person meeting, we'd have 120 people, so it'd be a lot more active engagement, but it's still a good way to stay connected, to communicate on topics, to get a little bit of a dialogue on issues that matter. And it is just one more channel of communication that we use to stay in touch with residents and make sure that we are not too far off the mark in what matters to you and what is of concern. So attend when you can on Zoom, and I really hope that we're going to have in-person meetings in the not too distant future, because there's nothing more fun than the interaction and the dialogue that comes more dynamically when we're in person. So hold that thought. That kind of leads into the next topic, which is WACRA. We had at the Residence Council special meeting, I believe it was it was earlier in the month. Is that right, Peter? I forgot.
Yeah. March 9.
March 9. So earlier in the month, WACRA being the Association Washington Continuing Care Residents Association. And that was a helpful meeting for those of you who participated. You probably learned a few new things. WACRA started, as did its parent organization, NACRA, in response to a lot of communities that were not being very fair to their residents. And they were not being transparent. They were not involving their residents. And it was necessary for organizations to form to encourage or cajole or force or whatever some communities to step up to behave as they should. I think at Horizon House, it's always been our mission to be as open and transparent as we can with everything. And if we can't be, at least we can disclose that we can't and perhaps be able to say why we can't. So the idea of having a small group session or having the financials available or whatever information is important to residents, we want to make sure that you're well informed, that you know and understand the goings on of Horizon House from the management side, so that you'll feel like you're prepared and you understand what's taking place and you can ask questions. And we would expect that to always continue. Sort of related to that whole thing was a presentation, a number of board members, Peter was involved in this, the Big Connect, which is a group, it's kind of like a mini convention that's put on by a large organization in California called Human Good. They have multiple communities around the country, and they put on this event that brings their partners and their communities and outside guests to be a part of their program that talks about the future of the industry and challenges and opportunities. And they have guest speakers, and we all learned a lot. And one of the themes came from one of the guest speakers, Bob Kramer, in his conversation with the CEO of Human Good, John Cochran. And it was talking about what's going to matter to residents in the future. And there is no end ifs or buts that a key attribute of what will matter to residents in the future will be their ability to be a part of a community that allows them to self-direct and to drive their own lives. And that is the essence of what Horizon House is. and you've heard me talk about this a million times. It's not something that a community can just decide overnight that they want to do. It is a culture that is built over many, many years, and at Horizon House has done just that. And that is really feeding well into where the future of the industry is going. That people, not unlike all of us here today, but even more so, people of the future will want to be a part of communities where there is transparency, there is openness, there is disclosure, there is involvement in decision-making. And this is, if done right, the WACRAs and NACRAs of the world don't need to exist because communities are honoring what their residents care about. So we feel like we're well positioned to be a part of who wants to be in senior living communities in the future. And we're not having to make the big pivot that you might find from other communities that have been much more, less transparent and not involving their residents as much. I participated in an event the other day, a Zoom event called Puget Sound. It was Puget Sound Business Journal put on. It was called The Future of Downtown Seattle, and it was a webinar. And, I wouldn't say it was anything really profound, but it did highlight the things that need to happen in order for Seattle to come back to life. And of course, we care about that living right up the hill from downtown Seattle. The key things are safety, that we need to have the city council and other civic leaders be more forthcoming about a game plan to help with the safety and security of downtown. It's a cart before the horse kind of thing, because you don't know, do you need more people in office buildings to then have more restaurants, to then make sure that then police are having the right frame of reference on what to take care of and what to manage. So it's a complicated process. But as the group was talking with various guest speakers, everyone identified that, yes, we want to get a portion of business workers back into downtown to see the arts and the music and the restaurant venues come back to life, and that we need to have a very strong push on public safety. And the people who were talking about this were talking about it in the context of their concern, legitimate concern for the homelessness, the mental illness, and the drug addictions in Seattle, and that we really need comprehensive programs to address that. So wherever you have a chance to plug in, to chime in to our city council, to articulate what you believe to be the root causes, as I've kind of described it, is helpful. Because we're not really seeing the city council get off the dime to address these issues, or if they are, they're not doing it very overtly. But until those things start to unfold, it's hard to have a really safe downtown. So we're hoping that they will get off the dime. Last couple of things is the CEO monthly report comes out pretty much right at the last day of the month. And while maybe not necessarily profound every single month, it is one more vehicle of communication. We talk about our finances in very matter-of-fact terms. So if you have any interest in that type of stuff, it is available for you to look at and read and understand and ask any of us questions so that you feel like you are informed and you have access to people who can help you understand or explain things if they're not otherwise clear. And lastly, I'll say we're coming up again on another fireside chat on Friday the 26th at 10 a.m. And we look forward to seeing all of you then, and we'll, I'm sure, have more new things to talk about. That's it, Peter.
Mike, thank you very much. Another comprehensive and great report. We will now move on to council news. And the first up will be Diane Tinker, our treasurer, will return to talk about the budget that has just been adopted for the new fiscal year starting in April. That'll be followed by George Counts making a return, taking off his health advisory hat and putting on his vice president for programs robes and talk about the signups. And then he will introduce this month's spotlight committee work, the Secular Humanists. So next year's council budget, Diane, you are up.
Okay. Do you have a slide? There we go.
Two of them, I think.
Our new budget was approved by Residents Council last March 9th. The Budget Committee met several times in February. So this is the some of the totals. Our projected income is $58,700, which is down quite a bit from our usual year because we cannot have outside shoppers still. Total committee expenses are budgeted at $64,015, which is about the regular amount. Administrative expenses, $11,550, also pretty standard amount. Outreach and support, these are our donations, $15,500, the same as always. So our total expenses are $91,365. So we're projecting a loss of $32,665. At the present time, our current assets, cash and CDs, is $160,000. So we are in good financial shape and will have no problem covering that expected loss. The budget will be included in the minutes from our March 9th meeting that will be posted on HH Connect. And also the budget will be shown in the monthly financial statements, starting with the April statements, if you're interested in the details. But all the committee chairmen should have heard from their coordinator or will hear shortly on what their approved budget amount is for the next year.
Well, thank you, Diane. That's a great report. And let me just add the fact that, the people might ask, well, why are we plan to run a deficit? Well, there are two reasons. One, because of the foresight of our forebears, we have a nice reserve. And the government doesn't like us to keep a huge reserve on forever and ever and ever, since we're a nonprofit. And the other thing is the committee felt very strongly that there should be nothing that would inhibit the committee's actively returning to full function. And if it meant that we didn't get quite as much money market revenue, but we did have a full-blown set of programs, well, that would be great, and we can stand the loss. So we didn't want to stop committees from making their plans based upon just a few dollars here and there. It's more than a few dollars, but you get the point. Thanks, Diane. Okay, and now bring back Vice President George Counts to talk about the signups process, and then introduce our spotlight guests.
Thank you, Peter. The first thing I want to do is extend a deep sense of appreciation to all the residents for signing up to volunteer back in February. I was worried because of all the circumstances we've been under this past year, but the residents really stepped up, and about 246 residents volunteered, which is almost the same as the previous year's 255. So thank you very much. We have 46 committees, 5 discussion groups, and 19 activities and games. These are all very active and are looking forward to becoming even more active. At each monthly meeting from now on, we will share with you some of the activities going on by these committees. We're so-called spotlighting them for you to see. At this first one, today's meeting, we are spotlighting the Secular Humanist group with a presentation by Joan Lawson and Deanna Nelson. Please, ladies.
I don't see Joan in the group, so I have her statement. I'll read what she was going to say. I don't know where she is. And then I'll go on to what I was going to say, if that's okay. This is Joan. Thank you to the Residents Council for inviting Horizon House Secular Humanists to be in the spotlight this month. I am Joan Lawson. 7 years ago, several of us gathered in an apartment to discuss briefly our life journeys to what we now call secular humanism. It had no name then. By the end of that year, word spread and we expanded into 2 rooms in Anderson Hall. Through the years, we heard live speakers or watched videos prepared by our steering committee members and others, discussed and brunched in the dining room. Other members of our steering committee are Charlie Weems, Connie Hellier, James Black, Beth Davis, Bill Anderson, Deanna Nelson, and Warren Anderson. The committee meets monthly to select programs that cover a wide range of philosophical and moral questions that we feel are better answered by science, reason, and evidence rather than by faith, supernaturalism, and religious dogma. Since COVID, our programs are shown every Sunday on HHTV at 9:55 a.m. and 4 p.m. Warren has prepared many of our programs using his film editing skills. He has also arranged to have our videos on HH Connect to be watched anytime and may be forwarded to friends and relatives. HH staff is wonderful to work with. Secular Humanists was assigned by the Residents' Council to be a discussion group. An important part of our programs is the discussion where we share our thoughts, what we learned, what we agree or disagree with, and what we took away from the talk or panel. When COVID changed our ways and we could not meet in person, Peter Shapiro encouraged us to keep the discussion portion of our programs, and he and Nancy Robinson tutored us. And now Beth and Deanna arrange our Zoom discussions. Zoom helps us keep our secular humanist community together when we cannot meet in person. Everyone has an opportunity to speak on Zoom. If you signed up recently, we welcome you to what seems to some of us as a community, although it is open to all as a drop-in or regular viewer and participant. There is no way we know who is watching unless you tell us, so tell us. Join us on Zoom afterwards. Has Joan come in to the, no, I don't see her.
It must be the connectivity devil.
I just got an email from her saying, why can't you hear me? So I don't know. Let me go on with my statement and then I'll figure out what's going on. So my name is Deanna Nelson and I'm a relative newcomer to Horizon House. I've met many of you from my Zoom work and it has been lovely getting to know you, but I do have other interests besides computers. I was introduced to the Secular Humanist group prior to deciding to move here by a resident who invited me to in-person Sunday morning meetings. I was drawn to the programs presented and to the discussions afterwards. The fact that an open-minded group eager to watch and discuss programs on philosophy and morality existed at Horizon House was a large factor in my decision to move here rather than to another retirement community. The programs that are shown on Secular Humanists preference science and the scientific method for finding the answers to life's questions, big and small. The topics covered are varied. Some of our programs added in the past are, I'll give you a list of some examples of how varied we are. How evolution has influenced your beliefs. Various scientists discuss why we believe what we do, the development of beliefs, how belief lies between our senses and our actions, and why it is important to get the facts straight. We had another, in a similar vein, is belief in religion an adaptive trait? This was a talk by our own Gordon Orens, an evolutionary biologist, about how religion developed in Homo sapiens and why it may have conferred a benefit on individuals in the evolutionary process. God on Trial. This was a portion of a 2007 play based on a book by Elie Wiesel. The play takes place in a concentration camp and is an emotional discussion of the teachings of the Old Testament and its intersection with the realities of history and life. Then there was Christianity, War, and Anti-Semitism, where a former Catholic priest talks about the negative influence of evangelicalism on the US military. And finally, Monty Python and the Life of Brian. That was a program about attempts to censor the satirical Monty Python movie about a case of mistaken identity. As Joan indicated, or as I indicated for Joan in this case, a list of some of the programs can be found on HH Connect in the Secular Humanists section. The list contains links to the YouTube programs, which you can watch on your computer and also share with friends outside of Horizon House by mailing them a link. We invite you to check us out on HHTV at 9:55 on Sunday mornings, and then join us on Zoom for the discussion. Thanks to the Residents Council for the opportunity to tell you about our group.
Thank you, Deanna. Great presentation. I'm sorry that Joan wasn't able to be here in person on this call. And thank you, Deanna.
Yeah.
And thank you, Deanna, for becoming such an active member of our community so quickly. So many things you do for the community.
Oh, you're welcome. I enjoy it.
Mike mentioned the special meeting we had a week ago today, March 9th, to present or to allow the participants in an agreement to present what the agreement was, an agreement between WACRA and Leading Age. There was a technical glitch, and the actual HHTV program started, I understand, about halfway through. I certainly got a lot of phone calls once it was over. So we have arranged, Richard Ransom has arranged for that to be a telecast tomorrow at 2 o'clock. It's in your alert. I just wanted to call it to your attention on channel 370. As I understand, it'll be the full program at that time. And then I believe today we also had a delay in starting, and so there'll be a similar rebroadcast or broadcast in the future, and keep your eye on the alert for when that takes place. Today's meeting, if you didn't see all of it at the beginning, that was not available. I'll now turn it over to my favorite spot. Sorry, Mike Ostrom. This is my favorite spot, is our Vice President for Administration with questions and answers, Audrey Weitkamp.
Hello, everybody. I'm going to make a really quick change in the question that I'm answering today. I was going to talk about something having to do with finances, but I think we've had so much discussion about finances. I'm going to put that off for a month. I promise you. And if you have other questions you'd like me to find answers for between now and then, send them to me. It may be even better than what I had planned. I'm going to ask a question for all of you, and it's because of a discovery I made just this afternoon. Bill and I have been ordering our groceries from QFC, and a very strange thing has been happening. 4 or possibly 5 times now, we have discovered among the giant vegetables and the canned soups and all that, a couple boxes of chocolate-covered espresso coffee beans. Now, that's something that I have never ordered. And they're not cheap. They're like $7.95 a box. So I was getting about $16 of extra groceries that I neither ordered nor wanted. And I'm just proposing this question to all of you. If you order from QFC, are you also getting these chocolate-covered coffee beans? So far, I've been taking them back to the QFC store, and they've been kindly giving me my money back. But I made a discovery this afternoon. I went back through all the receipts, you know, where they itemize them, looking for the coffee beans. They're not giving them to us free. They are charging us, and they are always listed as substitutions. Now, I don't know how smart the shoppers are, but I can't believe that they 5 times in a row have gotten shoppers who thought that chocolate-covered coffee beans are an appropriate substitution for the chicken that I had wanted, or the bottle of wine that they didn't have in the right brand. So if you are also getting coffee beans in your QFC, chocolate covered coffee beans in your QFC orders, would you let me know? Because I'm going to take this up. I think it's a racket that's going on, and I'm not quite sure who is involved. That's my question for today, and I don't have an answer at this point.
We'll get the answer from the community. A collective answer will be gathered and delivered to you, I hope.
Thank you.
You asked us at the Residents Council gathering, and no one said they had experienced the same thing. So we're waiting to hear from other folks. And now, just like a well-organized train coming into the station or leaving a station is now 3:01. So I am going to adjourn the meeting and ask Risa to end the webinar. Goodbye.